Welcome and let your journey to soul expansion begin. I'm your host, Kristen Kaczynski. This show will take you on a journey of expansion, encouraging you to release the limitations of your mind and lean into the wisdom of your soul. Remembering who you are on a soul level will help you release your conditioning, expectations, limiting beliefs, fears, and worries, and evoke a life expanded by your energetic alignment. Whether you're an entrepreneur who wants to grow your income and impact, or someone who knows in your heart of hearts that you're made for more, this podcast will help you awaken the power that's already inside of you, allowing you to attract an easy flow of money, clients, opportunities, and fulfillment. In each episode, you'll learn something new, expand your consciousness, and you'll walk away with a glimpse of what's truly possible for you. If you're ready to follow your soul's calling and live a more expansive life, you're in the right place. Welcome, and let your journey to soul expansion begin. Let's talk about conscious selling in the online space. Hello, this is one of my favorite topics. And the reason why I wanted to create an episode on this is because this is still pretty uncommon in the industry, the coaching industry. And there's a lot of noise out there that makes you think that this is not possible or that there just isn't a sustainable strategy that would allow you to operate this way. So before we get into what conscious selling is, let's talk about what unconscious selling is. And this is my definition. This is not, Webster's dictionary's definition. And I'm sure other people listening to this may have other opinions on what unconscious or harmful selling might look like. But just to kind of set the stage, what I believe harmful or unconscious selling looks like is creating false scarcity or urgency that puts people into a fear state so that they buy so they can soothe their nervous system and get out of that fear state. Sounds pretty nasty, right? When I put it like that. But if you look at a lot of the ways people are selling in the industry, that's honestly what it looks like. Take most launch strategies, for example. And before I get into this, caveat, I do think there's a time and a place for launching. I think it can be a very beautiful and valuable and conscious strategy when used correctly. But the way launching is taught by most people is creating a false sense of scarcity and urgency by creating an arbitrary cart open and an arbitrary cart close and saying that there's limited spots when really you'll take however many people, and creating FOMO and all of these tactics that really just put people into a fear-based state or a panic and make them feel like if they don't join, then something really bad's going to happen. And that's unconscious, right? So like they're joining because they think they need the help, right? On the conscious level, but unconsciously, the thing that's pushing them over the edge to hit that buy button is the fear, the scarcity, and the desire to soothe their nervous system. I think another component of harmful or unconscious selling is the way we talk to people about money. And I think it can be very uncomfortable for a lot of people to get really real about money. But I've been blessed to have lots of really good training with this and to be able to talk to people in an empowering way and a trauma-informed way about their money situation. I wasn't always like this, by the way. This is, a more recent development for me. But if you are uncomfortable talking about money, some of the sales scripts or sales tactics that you may have been taught in the coaching industry may have been to ask, plug and play questions. Like if they say they need to think about something, asking them, what do you need to think about? Or if they need to ask their spouse, asking them, well, do you always ask your spouse about these sorts of decisions? And I've even recommended those tactics in the past. I have programs where those were my recommendations because I didn't know any better. And that's what I was taught by my mentors. And that's what, people in the industry said to do. And I was operating unconsciously and in my own trauma and just trying to make sales my own business. And so that's what I recommended to my clients. But I've learned and grown so much since then that I've realized if we just know how to talk about money in a safe, empowering, and trauma-informed way, we can actually guide people to a an aligned decision, like one that feels good in their body, feels safe, and is ultimately going to lead them to incredible results because they feel so safe and empowered in that decision. Or an aligned decision not to invest, right? Which is good too, because if they invest from this place of like a fear response, like a literal trauma response, because they think they're going to not survive if they don't invest in this thing. And it sounds like a hyperbole, but that's actually what's happening, right? When we use these false scarcity or fear-based tactics, if you've ever had your heart racing on the final countdown of a launch that someone you look up to was hosting, if you had your heart racing and your blood pressure was rising and you really felt anxious about it, and so you invested and then you felt calm, right? That was a trauma response, and your body thought you were in danger. Like your body thought your life was in danger. And the only thing it knew to do to soothe that response was by investing. And maybe that was a really aligned investment for you. And, the fear pushed you over the edge and it ended up being a really good thing, but maybe it ended up being a really bad thing. Maybe it, led you to an investment or a mentor that wasn't aligned for you and maybe caused more harm than good. So just even knowing as a consumer in this industry and recognizing when that like heart racing fear response is coming up, it may still be leading you to the right path, but can you take a moment to slow down, to breathe, to get your body to a state of safety, your nervous system to a state of safety and calm, and make a decision from that place instead of from the fear-based place. And what's interesting about unconscious or harmful selling is the arbitrary scarcity tactics aren't even real. I've seen the inside of people's businesses where launching is their main strategy and they do back-to-back launches and there's this constant illusion of scarcity. Meanwhile, on the back end, they're consistently selling the exact same programs that they're creating this illusion of scarcity about. They're selling them in the DMs on the back end as an evergreen offer. And to me, this feels so unethical because you're putting people into this fear-based state to where they feel forced to make a decision just to feel better in their own bodies. Meanwhile, if you're just selling it evergreen anyway, why wouldn't you just sell it evergreen? I don't know. That's just my thinking on it. And, it's kind of, it used to scare me to talk about this sort of thing because I have had people, reach out to me and say that I shouldn't talk about what I believe in because it's putting other people down. But I'm not really talking about this to put any one person in particular down. I'm honestly just talking about this to bring some transparency to the issue and to let you know, like, if you are, regularly engaging with someone and buying from someone who is using some of these unconscious or harmful sales tactics, if you look behind the curtain, you're going to notice that it's all an illusion. And so I just want to empower you to know that so you don't feel like you have to give in to this panicky response and invest in something that may not ultimately be a good fit for you. So circling back to talking about money, I kind of got off on a tangent there. But circling back to talking about money, I have learned that one of the best ways to talk about money is understanding people's ability to have the investment or to have access to the investment. So mentally, emotionally, energetically, I separate people into 3 categories and I let them choose, I let them self-select which category they belong in. The first is I do not have the investment and nor do I have access to the investment. The second is I have access to the investment. And the third is I have the investment. So what's the difference between not having access, and actually physically having the investment? So by my definition, and you may see other definitions floating around, and that's fine too, but again, this is my definition. If you do not have access to the investment, that means that you do not have access to funding in any way, shape, or form, including zero interest credit cards, loans, business loans, loans from family members, or your savings account, right? So if you literally do not have access to any of those things, and the investment in the program would be cost prohibitive for you and your family, to where you would be put into a state of survival instead of being able to, stretch yourself in a healthy way. To me, that means you do not have access to the investment. And it's not a good choice for you to invest in something where you do not have access to the investment, by my definition. The next level up is I have access to the investment. And with this category, the way I define it is you have access in some way, shape, or form to the funds in such a way that it would not compromise your safety and well-being for you and your family. So this could be in the form of a zero interest credit card that you can pay off over time. It could be in the form of a payment plan that I offer, right? Or it could be in the form of a business loan. It could be in the form of a loan from a friend or family member who really believes in you and your business. Or it could be income from your full-time job if there's extra money to invest in your business. And by extra money, I mean money that is not leading to the direct safety and well-being of your family, right? So money that maybe ordinarily you would spend on travel or on extras that you add to your life. Or from a savings account, right? I've invested from savings accounts. I've invested from credit cards. I've invested from business loans. I've actually used all of the different forms that I've mentioned before. And that's because I had access to those options, right? And I've also invested from my full-time job, and I've also invested from my business income. So I've used lots of different sources to invest in myself. And because of that, I've been able to invest in myself regularly and grow my business as a result of those investments. So that's what I define as having access to the investment. Like, you literally can access the investment, and it may take some work to get the access, but it's available to you, right? And then the last category is I have the investment, and I define this as having money to spare every month to pay the investment, right? Or like having it like built within your budget to pay the investment. And obviously that's the ideal scenario, but most of us are not living in the ideal scenario. So by my definition, if you have access to the investment and or you have the investment, then you are a good candidate to invest in yourself. And so what I do is, if I'm in a situation where someone is stating that they can't afford the program, I don't ask them questions that are intrusive. All I do is I explain the situation. I explain the 3 categories that I just explained to you here on this podcast. I ask if they would like to self-identify. And then from there, I say, if you do have access to the investment, what is coming up for you in your body? Is there a limiting belief or a fear that is coming up here? Can I support you and hold space for you in this? And I ask permission, right? So if they don't want my support, then that's fine too. And that is their right. And it's not my job to convince them. To me, that would be harmful selling if I just like badgered them and asked them a million questions. And again, I've done that in the past, right? Like, I am not innocent in this, but I have grown and changed and evolved. And you can too. If you are a coach or a healer that is tired of chasing after leads, tired of worrying about where your money's going to come from each month, and tired of using sleazy sales tactics that make you feel icky and make your audience feel icky, I have just the thing for you. So after working with over 100 coaches and healers, and also after observing what happened in my own business scaling journey, I realized that there is a massive upper limit to complicated strategies. And what I found was you don't really need complicated strategies to be able to market and sell your programs. At the end of the day, all you need are basic marketing and sales skills, and then it comes down to your energy and your mindset. And Divine Feminine Sales has you covered on all 3. And honestly, the biggest thing I've learned about sales is when you are able to tap into this divine feminine energy that we all have inside of ourselves, regardless of how you identify or what your biological gender is, when we're able to tap into our divine feminine energy, you become a truly magnetic force for your soulmate clients. They can't help but be magnetized to you and to want to be in your energy and to join your programs. It's like being the host of the hottest party of the season that everyone wants an invitation to, except that party is your program, right? And how cool would it be to be in this place where you can just magnetically attract people and have those I want to work with you DMs every single day. All of this is possible for you when you join Divine Feminine Sales, and I have a special offer for you. If you'd like to try Module 1 of Divine Feminine Sales, you can do so for only $55. That's right, you can try Module 1 for only $55 at trydivine.com. And if you decide that you totally love Module 1 and you want to upgrade to the full program where you get live calls with me as well as Facebook group support, you can apply that same $55 to your full enrollment. How cool is that? So give us a try at trydivine.com. You will love Module 1. I take you through my offer creation framework, and you get to keep forever access to that. So that in and of itself is way, way, way worth the $55. Let's be real. Go to trydivine.com and let me know on Instagram if you sign up. I would love to celebrate you. All right, now back to the show. So I asked permission to hold space for any fears or limiting beliefs that may be coming up for them. And then I truly hold space, just like I would if they were a paying client. I guide them to the right answer for them. I ask them questions. I let them have an emotional experience if they're feeling emotional about it. And I ask them, is this coming from a place of true fear safety, or is this coming from a place of fear of up-leveling and taking a bet on yourself? Because there's a big difference between the two, and it's quite normal to have fear when you invest in yourself because most people don't, right? And so just helping people identify, okay, what is this fear? Where is it coming from? Do I need to give in to this fear and listen to it? Or is this something that I can feel the fear and do it anyway? And my well-being and my safety and my health would not be compromised. And if it's the latter, then I encourage them to, follow their heart and invest in the program. And if it's the former, where their safety or their well-being would be compromised in some way, then of course I encourage them to maybe invest in something lower cost that I offer, or, wait until they're able to invest from a really safe space. So I just want you to take a minute and kind of absorb that. How much more empowered would you feel if you could talk about money in such a way that I just described in this podcast episode with people and feel safe and grounded and trusting that they will make the right decision, and they're not going to feel like they're not going to need that false sense of scarcity or that false sense of FOMO or that false sense of, running out of time and putting them into a fear-based response, but they can actually make a decision from a really safe, embodied place where it's going to be better for them, it's going to be better for you, and ultimately they're going to be getting better results because they are making that decision from abundance. What would that mean for you, and how would that make you feel about sales if that's where you could come from every time you talk to someone? I know for me, it's changed everything. I no longer feel attached to someone's money story or feel like I have to change their mind or convince them. I just have to guide them and hold space for them and honor their own journey and experience. Another form of conscious selling that I'd love to educate you about on this episode is understanding that people are at different levels of readiness, and you'll hear me talk about this in the next episode. While it's not our job to force people to be ready before they are ready, we also don't have to give our energy or hold energetic space for people who are not ready, right? And it's the difference between making people feel disempowered by your content by saying if they're not ready, then they're not going to get the results, and they'll be so far behind, and some of this language that we see floating around in the online space, or picking at their pain points, right? You see that a lot too, where it's like, let's agitate the pain. Let's, talk about how painful it will be if they don't join our programs. And that will get them ready because people are more motivated by pain than they are by pleasure. But what do you think that does to people? Don't you think that puts them into that fear, panicky, negative state, that lower vibrational state when they're making decisions about your program? Sure does. Versus empowering marketing or pleasure-based marketing, like really highlighting who they could become in your program and what's waiting for them on the other side and all of the possibilities and how much more potential you see in them and that you can activate in them if they join your program. It's the difference between wound marketing, like picking at the wound, and really empowering marketing. And I see this now in the industry, and when I look at some of my own posts from, a year ago or 2 years ago, where I was more in the wound marketing realm because I didn't know any better, it makes me sick to my stomach to read it now. And have you ever read one of those posts from someone you look up to or from a business peer or a business mentor where it just made you feel sick to your stomach because it was so painful? I don't know about you, but I don't want to make my future clients feel that way. Right? And so a lot of what I've been talking about today, we go more in depth in my program, Divine Feminine Sales, which I would love for you to experience. We have an offer where you can try Module 1 for $55 and then apply. If you decide to join the full program, you can apply that payment to the full program. So you can learn more about that at trydivine.com. But I would also love to hear your thoughts on Instagram if you watch this episode, because let's be real, not very many people are brave enough to talk about this because the bigwigs in the industry, the people who are at the top, are doing this type of wound marketing, unconscious harmful marketing that makes people go into a fear state and make a decision out of panic to soothe their nervous system. Like, most people are selling this way. And so if you were, enlightened by this episode, or you feel really like this is an important topic to share, I invite you to share, talk about it on your stories and tag me, mention the podcast, screenshot the podcast, share this episode with a friend, a business friend, share this episode with your mentor even. That would be a bold ass statement, right? Like, if your mentor is teaching some of these scarcity or fear-based tactics that are making you feel bad and making their ideal clients feel bad, maybe this is a message they need to hear, right? So I encourage you to share this message because not a lot of people are talking about this. And I do think it is so, so, so important for the longevity of your business, right? Like, imagine the difference between making people operate out of fear versus making people operate out of love. Out of love for them and their journey, out of love for them and their own body's process, out of love for them and wherever they're at, whatever their money situation is. And out of this place of like seeing so much more for them instead of seeing all of their problems. Like, what a difference in the community you will build if you shift to conscious marketing. What a profound difference. So share this message. It needs to be heard by more people in the industry. And send me a DM if you listen to it, if you have more thoughts, if you want to talk more. I'm an open book. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm at Kristen Kaczynski. And until next week, when we talk about, next week's going to be so good. I just looked at my podcast calendar. Next week, I am peeling back the curtain and getting super vulnerable with you about some resistance that I'm experiencing right now in my business as I record these episodes. So definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and make sure you get that episode, getting vulnerable about the resistance in my business this summer. Until next week, until next episode, I'm Kristen Kaczynski. I love you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for honoring your soul's calling today and taking the time to listen to this episode of the Soul Expansion Podcast. If you have a question you'd like featured or have a topic idea, I would love to hear from you. Find me on Instagram at Kristen Kaczynski and send me a DM with your request. Remember, you are a truly limitless being. The limits you see now are only an illusion. Whatever it is that you desire, that's already yours. It already exists in the universe here and now. You simply have to awaken to what you already have. And I hope this episode brought you a little closer to that truth. If you love this episode and would like to give from your heart and appreciation, please take a few moments to screenshot it and tag me in your stories on Instagram, or write a brief review on your favorite podcast platform. Your voice truly matters, and your feedback helps to spread abundant expansion to a broader audience. And what a gift that is, right? Just think about how much abundance will come back to you if you help a friend experience their own soul expansion. And with that, I just want to say thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, I'm Kristen Kaczynski, and I love you.